Allan Stockman Rugano. I'm a Burundian. I was born in Burundi and I grew up there. I'm a software developer working as a consultant for many national or international businesses. And I am happy to be addressing you. Today, I would like to talk about my experience launching 2 out of my 5 businesses, startups in the IT sector that I've launched in Burundi since 2012. And I will talk about the 2 because those are the one that succeeded. And the thing is, since we are Burundian, it's better for me to put in some French or some Kirundi in my presentation so that people or some other Burundian can understand very well what's my point. And I like to speak Kirundi, and so in this expose I will be more focusing on what worked for me in deploying software in Burundi. So as I said earlier, I started working in Burundi in the IT sector 9 years ago, building software for NGOs or for the private sector. But back then we had some problems. Maybe those problems are less acute now, but back then in 2012, as a fresh graduate, when you go out of any university in Burundi, when you finish your studies in computer science, or if you are talented enough, you had some problems when you want to start a business. The first problem that was kind of really acute was the lack of information. You needed to know who's willing to take in, if for example you have built a web application or even a mobile application, who's gonna ask for using your web app, who's hiring, and where do you start if you want to build a website for any companies in Burundi. So where do you start? Also, back then it was very difficult because a lot of young people didn't know where to go if they want to host their own website. So the lack of information was a very persistent problem. But also there is a lack of capital. There is all over the world there is a problem to get a hold of funding in order to start your own business as a startup in IT sector. But the thing is, you need to ask yourself, when you are a fresh graduate, how much does it cost to build a startup? Even just how much does it cost to host a website online? There is no fixed price in Burundi. And how much is the return of investment? But also, even then, when we had discussion, even now when we have discussion with people who had businesses, and we, as software developers, we tell them, okay, we can make this automatic for you, we can do this, we can do this. They look at us and say, yeah, go and do that, we will see. But when you start implementing a solution, you ask yourself, why hasn't anyone ever tried to do this? Because you don't know if there is someone who has already implemented the solution that you are coming up with, you end up having some problems. Also, when you wanted to start your business, you would face a skepticism in a way that when you ask someone for funds, he would ask to see your business plan. But most of the business plan, even those business plan that they do in competition in Burundi, they are commercial business plan. For example, most of the business plan assume that you will have an office, you will have to buy hardware, you have to buy things. They do not think that as an IT or as a startup, you can work virtually without any office for the time being, until you get your first client who will give you your first contract, who will give you your first who will give you enough money to consider having assets, physical assets. So this was one of my experience starting 2012. I was building apps, and the thing is, I wanted to earn money building those apps. But earning money was you could either earn money directly or indirectly, in a way that, for example, directly you will have to be paid automatically by your client. Indirectly is most of the time when you, at the end of the month, you go with a pro forma, and then ask to be paid by your clients. So the problem is that, and this is the common way of how clients pay in Burundi. But the problem is, the Burundian, we do not pay very well. We do not pay very well on time, or if you are just a young with your startup, people will not prioritize your bill. The finance department will not prioritize your bill. So it's kind of frustrating, especially if you are starting, and the only way to earn directly money was either to use a USSD or a payment method through the web. But USSD is not cheap. USSD, for example, I think to get your number at ARCT, you need to pay 36 million in order to get your number, so that you can do étoile dièse, your number, and dièse, and then it's when you are young and you are starting without any any client, any big client, in order to pay 36 million Burundian francs. It's so much. Online payment solution didn't exist back then. Now you can pay bills for start time, for many services online or even at your bank. But back then, those services didn't exist. So we have this problem in 2012. And then we have other problem in 2021. So most of the time, if you have a problem, you need to solve it. And to solve it, there are many ways to solve it. You can do it the easiest way, or you can do it the practical way. The practical way can be difficult, but hey, nothing is easier in this life. So the easiest way is either wait for the state to put everything in place, to publish information, to foster innovation, to do everything, or you can even switch career. I have many friends who wanted to build something. They try to build to live by the business that they were running, and they failed. But they just abandoned. They left the IT sector, or even some stopped running their own business. They are employees somewhere. But also you can just go online and rant that it's difficult to do business in Burundi and so, but it doesn't solve anything. So there is then the practical way. I have been using the practical way to solve that problem, because if it was a problem in 2012 and I didn't do anything to solve it in my own conception of how to handle things, I don't have the right to come and complain about the same problem in 2021. If I didn't do anything to solve it, I don't have the right. That's how I think. So what we did is, I go with some of my friends. We started to look at the problem and how to address it in a systematic way. We thought that we need to build a payment solution. A payment solution is something like Stripe. You do not worry about finding information, about using huge capital in order to start, or signing papers with many banks or microfinance institution or a mobile money operator in Burundi. If there is someone who can aggregate all those services in one API that you can put in your if you are a software developer, in your mobile app, for example, and you do not waste time worrying about signing papers or doing the VPN or everything there. You just focus on coding and launching your mobile application or web application, and this is what we thought about implementing. So we implementing a payment solution. We went on and created a kind of business which could sign papers with banks or microfinance institutions or mobile money operators or any payment solution that is recognized by the Burundian state. So we also find servers and we build a platform which is available 24 hours and 7 days a week, all days. So that service, we also then started put in place all the infrastructure. Infrastructure by we mean we put in place the API, the digital infrastructure, the logistical infrastructure, but also we also put in place the legal infrastructure, because we want something that can be reused, and we reused with confidence that it follows all the rules of the state, and since it will be accepting payments, there are laws that need to be followed. So at the end of the day, we also open source that API, that payment solution that we have implemented, so that any young developer who finishes his university studies can come in and implement in his solution, because that was the problem that I had, or some of my friends had then. So it's a way to solve that problem. Yes, as you can see, we have built a microfinance institution which has an API, an online API, which you can consume, and we try to keep that services online, and it has been quite a journey. And in order to do that, we created a company. We started with a company 5 or 4 years ago called Ohinga Vision, Vision, because we have expertise, Ohinga. Then we have a vision. We see where we want to go, and we take time, slowly, take years to build slowly all the things. We built a local development team, because if you really want to go fast in Burundi, and you have a startup, you need to have a local development team, because then you can implement solution very quick than waiting help from outside. But also we used low-cost technology like open source technologies, and then also we rented servers online, and so that that allowed us to palliate from the frequent power outage, internet connection internet connection which is unreliable in Burundi, in Bujumbura, and but also it's not practical as a startup to maintain physical servers. But for the sake of using of running a microfinance, you have to have physical servers on the site, and we work on that. We kept a few servers on the site on premises. Most of the when we were starting, we were using most of all our servers were online, because it's one of the recommendations that I would suggest for any startup, any young developer starting his startup there. Unless you have your first client and it's a big contract, you better use online servers, virtual servers that are hosted online, because it allows you to skip all those problems of internet connection outage, power outage, and so and so. So that's my recommendation. We have built a core banking system, and that core banking system then help us launch the microfinance institution, which is called iHela Credit Union. And as I said, iHela Credit Union is recognized by the central bank, and it means it can talk to other banks, to other microfinance or other money mobile money operators, and then we can then build some solution based in a consistent and serious way, and we after implementing the API, we then made the implementation of payment method. We lowered the barrier, because before that you had, for example, to go and sign non-disclosure agreement with this and this, buy a Cisco router, implement a firewall, implement a VPN, and do the stuff that we have done it. You just come, you use our API, and everything is done on. And our API is free, and when our API is free, you no longer need to worry about to know how much does it cost to implement this payment solution or payment method in your app, and so and so. This is a very step that we have made to address the problem that we had in 2012. And on my journey to this, I have some recommendation for especially for young developers launching their startups back in Burundi, in Bujumbura. I will really recommend, for example, to minimize expenditure. It means, as I say, for example, you can rent, you can ask for someone outside of Burundi, if possible, to pay for you $5 per month. $5 per month, so that you can have a server online and then install on it your application, or launch your mobile application, or anything, or your website, so that you can then try to get your first client who will give you a good contract. And most of the time, $5 a month, $60 a year, it's almost 200,000 francs, Burundian francs per month, per year. It means if you try to get a client who needs a website, and you get the website at maybe 700,000, you get a good return of investment for the whole year. So instead of asking someone for Netflix access, you can ask him to pay for you just online as an online server. Also, you need to we spend a lot of time building something that is not very needed by our first client. I will recommend that you need to build a minimum viable product, and then try to get your first client, who will then sign a good contract, and then you can then add later other nice features that are not really what is needed by the client. Because I've seen many young developers in Burundi build nice and tremendous product, but you find that the Burundian market, the clients there doesn't need all those features that you are building. This is one also of my recommendation. And the last recommendation is very important. In Burundi, we do not pay very well IT services. I've seen a lot of people, young people, complain that in order for the client to pay for a website that was built, or a mobile app that was built, they had to beg for him to pay, or to essentially shut down the website in order for the client to pay them in a good way. So we need to change. We then need to build a payment solution in the products that we are building. For example, if for example you build an application to manage a hotel or a business, and you include in your solution a payment method like iHela API. It means if you discuss well with the business, you can implement in a way that when a client of the business pays money, the amount that is due to the business go directly to its account. The amount that is due to you come directly to your account, and then it means you have already your money, because tuvugane ukuri i Burundi uri umuntu utanguye aga startup kawe, turakeneye yuko tubeshwaho na software development, turabikeneye. So if you implement those payment method very well, there is possibility to lower your stress going with pro forma at the end of the month, asking to be paid and so and so. So this is my recommendation, and I would like to really encourage all my Burundian fellows to stop complaining and be the solution that they preach. This is general, and when we built the iHela API, we made it open source, and it means you can implement a library that you can put in your Java application or PHP app website or app, or a Python web app, and in those two library, those three library, two of them were made by young Burundian who were pleased by the idea and came and proposed that solution, and then we just took it and helped to maintain that solution. The contribution is open to anyone who wants to help other developers not waste time implementing, or anyone who's interested in lowering the entry level of implementing payment solution, payment method in the software that everyone is building back in Burundi. As I say, the iHela API is you can implement it in any digital service, and the API is free. Is available as a Python package, PHP or Java library, or we will even do a JavaScript or Angular or Node.js package. And the thing is, in general, this is my experience launching two of my startups in Burundi, and I hope everyone who watched this presentation can get some lesson from it, especially in a way that maybe you can use some of my thinking here to implement your startup, so that we can see more and more startup in Burundi succeed, instead of finding software developer complaining, everyone complaining, oh, it's difficult to do this. Yes, but there are some problems which shouldn't be problem anymore. Some problems which shouldn't be problems anymore. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I think most of you know me on Twitter. You can write to me there, and thank you.